4 horses returned to the ranch alone that night, their saddles empty, swaying in the moonlight. By morning, the bunkhouse was silent, and 5 ranch hands were gone. The night the ranch fell silent, Jenna Flores heard the last thing she expected: 4 horses galloping back into the corral alone, their saddles empty and swinging like warnings. Moonlight traced hoofprints leading away from the old bunkhouse, and a child's lullaby still drifted through the wind that smelled of diesel and gunmetal. Neighbors locked their doors, prayers fell quiet, and somewhere a dog howled. By dawn, the corral stood still, and the men who had ridden out were never seen again. Decades later, when the earth was cut open for a new pipeline, the past finally spoke. Welcome to Missing Shadows, the channel that uncovers the forgotten, the vanished, and the untold. Hit subscribe, because every shadow hides a story. The summer of 1985 came dry and cold to West Texas. The sun didn't just rise, burned the horizon awake, spreading heat across miles of brittle grass and white fences that rattled in the wind. On that land stood the Hart Ranch, a patch of earth older than the road that led to it. Every morning began the same way. Dan Hart, the eldest of the 4 brothers, would open the barn before dawn, coffee in one hand, rope in the other. Miguel II was always one step behind, loud joking, never quiet enough for the horses' liking. Levi, soft-spoken and steady, took care of the youngest colts, whispering to them like they could understand. And Tom, the youngest, 19 and restless, raced the sunrise on his motorcycle before breakfast, kicking up dust and laughter in his wake. Their father had died young, their mother long gone. The brothers kept the ranch alive by grit, debt, and blood. They didn't have much, just a few horses, an old Ford truck, and a house that creaked when the wind hit it, but they had each other. At night, the ranch glowed with life. The brothers would sit outside on the porch, guitars strumming, moths circling the porch light. Neighbors would sometimes stop by, especially Jenna Flores, the girl from the next ranch over who'd grown up around them. She'd laugh when Tom teased her, roll her eyes when Miguel flirted, and secretly listen a little longer when Dan spoke. There was something about Dan's slow, certain that made people believe things would always be okay. But beneath the laughter, there was tension. The ranch owed money. The land was drying out. Oil companies were buying properties nearby, and Dan refused to sell. "It's our father's ground," he said one night, jaw tight as he stared at the horizon. "We'll die before we give it up." No one argued, but silence fell heavy after that dot. A week before, everything changed. A stranger had been seen near the back fence. Sheriff Calloway came out, found boot tracks in the dust, but no name to match. "Could be nothing," he'd said, scratching his neck, "but you boys keep your rifles close." Levi had laughed it off. "Out here? What's anyone gonna steal our debts?" But Dan didn't laugh. He started locking the barn at night, double bolting the feed room, and keeping a loaded rifle by the door. That night, the wind carried a strange hum through the valley, like a song half remembered. And if you'd stood outside the Hart Ranch under that star-thick Texas sky, you might have seen the 4 brothers silhouetted against the barn light, talking quietly. No one knows what they said that night, but it would be the last evening anyone ever saw them together. The last night at the Hart Ranch began quietly, too quietly for West Texas. The wind had died, the crickets gone still, and the moon was so bright it painted the ground white. Inside the bunkhouse, a radio hummed low, an old country station playing a song about coming home. Dan sat at the table, polishing his father's rifle. Miguel leaned against the wall, flipping through a ledger full of unpaid bills. Levi was outside feeding the horses one last time, humming under his breath, and Tom, the youngest, was restless. As ever pacing the porch, glancing toward the distant highway lights. Jenna Flores was there too, visiting after supper. She'd brought over a jar of peach preserves and a shy smile. "You boys'll starve without me one day," she joked, but Dan's eyes lingered on her longer than they should have. When she left, he walked her halfway down the fence line. "Storm coming soon," he said softly, though the sky was clear. She smiled. "You always say that. I'm usually right." They didn't know it then, but that would be the last conversation she ever had with him. Around midnight, a sound tore through the silence, a metallic clank, like a gate slamming shut. Miguel stepped outside, flashlight in hand. "Levi, that you..." No answer. The light swung across the corral, catching dust, movement, then nothing. Tom laughed nervously. Probably a coyote. Don didn't laugh. "Get inside," he said. Then came the second sound. Hooves, running fast. Not away from the ranch, but around it. Circling, the horses inside the corral went wild. Kicking, snorting, their eyes wide and white. Levi's voice shouted from somewhere near the barn, "Dan, get over here." But before Dan could reach him, the generator flickered and died, plunging everything into silence. In the morning, the neighbors found the gate open, the horses gone, and the brothers nowhere to be seen. The coffee pot was still warm. The radio still played static. A chair was knocked over. Sheriff Calloway arrived by dawn, his boots crunching over the porch steps. He looked around, took off his hat, and whispered, "God help us." No one ever saw the Hart brothers again. Not for 38 long years. By sunrise, word had already spread across Reeves County. The Hart boys were gone. Neighbors poured in from every direction. Farmers, ranch hands, even the pastor from town. Sheriff Ray Calloway organized a search before breakfast. Lines of trucks crawling through the brush like a slow, desperate parade. Volunteers swept every creek bed, every canyon hollow. Helicopters beat the air for 2 days straight, their searchlights cutting through dust and heat. They found tire tracks leading away from the barn, but no vehicles ever matched. They found a boot print half buried near the windmill, but the size could have fit any of the brothers. Inside the bunkhouse, the sheriff's deputies found only confusion. Coffee half drunk, radio still humming static. A torn photograph on the floor, the brothers and their late father, taken years ago. One corner of it was missing, as if someone had torn a face out. Sheriff Calloway frowned, pocketed the photo, and said nothing. By the third day, hope began to crack. The horses were still gone. No ransom note, no witnesses, no sign of a struggle that made sense. Jenna Flores stayed by the ranch every day, cooking for the search crews, refusing to go home. She'd sit on the porch each night until the crickets started singing again, her eyes fixed on the gate as if the brothers might walk through it any minute. But they never did. After 2 weeks, the sheriff called off the official search. "We'll keep the file open," he said, though everyone knew what that meant. The town's paper ran the story once more. Headline, bold and merciless: 4 brothers vanish from Texas ranch. Nitrogen monoxide, clues found. Time didn't stop, but it slowed. The ranch went quiet, sold off in pieces. Jenna left for college. Sheriff Calloway grew older, heavier with guilt, and somewhere in that silence, the legend of the Hart brothers began. 4 men who rode out one night into the dark Texas plain and never came back. The years that followed were slow and cruel. By 1987, the Hart Ranch was no longer the heartbeat of the valley. The corrals sagged, the house fell into quiet ruin, and the wind took over where voices used to be. Sheriff Ray Calloway kept the case file on the corner of his desk for years, thick with reports, thinner with leads. Every so often, he'd get a call from someone claiming to have seen the brothers in El Paso, or Mexico, or even up north near Amarillo. Each time, he'd drive out, check the name, and come back empty-handed. Eventually, his deputies stopped asking. Jenna Flores left for Austin, married once, divorced twice, and never stopped wondering. She'd drive past the old ranch whenever she came home, roll down her window, and still half expect to see one of the boys fixing the fence. Sometimes she thought she heard laughter in the wind, Levi's maybe, or Tom's, and it would stop her cold. In 1998, the land was sold to a cattle company. The house was bulldozed, the bunkhouse torn down, and the last wooden fence post burned for firewood. All that remained was the well, and even it had gone dry. People started telling stories. Some said the brothers ran away after a deal went bad, maybe smuggling, maybe oil. Others swore the ranch was cursed, that the ground itself swallowed them. Children growing up in Reeves County would dare each other to drive out at night and listen for the horses. By 2005, the case was officially inactive. Sheriff Calloway retired. Jenna stopped visiting the sheriff's office. The world moved on, but the mystery never left. Every family in that county had lost someone to the oil bust or to the land. But losing 4 brothers in one night, that stayed with people. It became a story that lived longer than those who told it. And so, for 38 long years, the Hart brothers remained ghosts, remembered in whispers, mourned in silence until the night. The horses came home. It was a late September night in 2023 when the first call came in. The new owners of the old Hart property, a quiet couple from Dallas, were closing up their house when they heard the sound of hooves outside. Slow at first, then faster, echoing across the fields like thunder on dry earth. When they stepped onto the porch, 4 horses stood by the fence, staring back at them through the moonlight. Their coats were the same color described in the old case files: a chestnut, a black mare, a dapple gray, and a white stallion with one blue eye. All 4 had worn leather saddles aged, cracked, and hand-tooled with the same initials burned into the straps. H. Hart horses, no tracks led in. No riders, no sign of transport. The couple called the sheriff's office, and by morning, the whole county was talking. News crews came. Old-timers whispered. Some said it was a prank, others said it was impossible. But when Sheriff Calloway's daughter, Deputy Laura Calloway, arrived to inspect the saddles, she found something else. Inside the left saddlebag of the white stallion was a folded map. Old, torn at the edges, marked in pencil. Across the faded paper were 3 words, written in the same steady hand that signed the missing person reports in 1985. Still here. Dan, the deputy, froze 30-8 years after the night they vanished. The Hart brothers had somehow, through their horses, come home. Deputy Laura Calloway had grown up hearing the story of the Hart brothers like a bedtime ghost tale. Her father, Sheriff Ray Calloway, used to keep their missing persons file in a worn leather folder, pages yellowed and soft at the corners. She remembered him staring at it on sleepless nights, mumbling, "We missed something, Laura. We had to have, now." standing under that same Texas sky her father once patrolled. She held the map found in the saddlebag, a relic from 1985, and felt the same chill he must have felt back then. The ink had faded, but one thing stood out clearly: a rough outline of the ranch's perimeter, and a small X marked near a creek that no longer existed. In faded pencil, a second name appeared below. The word still here, Dan. It read, Levi. Laura took the evidence to the new sheriff, but he dismissed it quickly. Probably a prank. Those horses were probably turned loose by someone looking for attention, but she wasn't convinced. The saddles had been sealed, untouched by modern leather. The handwriting was verified by her father's old notes. It was Daniel Hart's single quote says, "She did what her father would have done." She reopened the file. Within a week, she tracked down Jenna Flores, now 57, retired teacher, widowed, and still living 2 towns over. When Laura showed her the photo of the saddles and the note, Jenna's face went pale. "That's Dan's handwriting," she whispered, tracing the letters with trembling fingers. "I used to see him write on feed bags the same way. He always pressed too hard with his pencil." Laura nodded. "Did he ever mention a place by the creek?" Jenna looked out the window, lost in memory. "He said once, 'There's a place where the ground hums after the rain.' He said if anything ever happened, that's where the truth would sleep." That night, Laura packed her flashlight, the old map, and her father's revolver. For 38 years, the truth had been buried. But by dawn, she'd be standing where Dan Hart's last message pointed to the ground that still remembered what everyone else forgot. The night air was dry and sharp when Deputy Laura Calloway reached the old creek bed. The land was nothing but dust and thorn now, a hollow where water used to run decades ago. But when her flashlight cut through the dark, she saw the faint outline of wooden posts buried in the earth, remnants of an old fence line. She followed the maps, markings carefully, each step kicking up memories she never lived but somehow knew: the laughter of the 4 brothers, the hum of cicadas, the smell of hay and oil. The deeper she walked, the quieter it became. Even the wind seemed to hold its breath. Finally, her light hit something metallic. A rusted lockbox, half sunken in mud. Laura knelt and brushed away the dirt. The box was stamped with initials, HH, the same as the saddles. The hinges gave after a few strikes with her boot. Inside, wrapped in a decayed bandana, were 4 small notebooks, weathered, water-stained, but still legible. She opened the first. The handwriting matched Dan Hart's. June 3rd, 1985. They came again. Said the land isn't ours anymore. Told us to sell or we'd disappear like the rest. Miguel thinks it's the oil company. Levi says we should go to the sheriff. Tom says nobody would believe us. Her pulse quickened. She flipped another page. June 5th, they poisoned the well. We buried the bodies by the creek. If anyone finds this, don't trust anyone wearing the county badge. Laura froze. Her flashlight trembled against the page. The words "don't trust anyone wearing the county" badge felt like a whisper through time, aimed right at her. She read one final note. This one, in darker ink, written days later. If you find the horses, it means the land took them home. We're still here. Dan thunder rolled across the plains, distant but growing. Laura stood, clutching the notebooks, heart pounding. Her father had searched this land for decades, yet somehow the truth had been buried right beneath his feet. And now it was crawling its way back to the surface. By dawn, the wind had turned cold. A storm was gathering, the kind that rolls across Texas plains like judgment itself. Laura Calloway stood by the creek bed, rain beginning to fall, the notebooks open on the hood of her truck. She had called in the Discovery, expecting backup. But when a second vehicle arrived, it wasn't the sheriff's cruiser, it was an old brown pickup, engine rattling like bones. Behind the wheel sat Ray Calloway, her father, 80 years old now, frail but alert. He stepped out slowly, his face half shadowed by his hat. "You found it," he said quietly. "You knew," Laura whispered. "You knew this place existed." He didn't answer, just stared at the box and the journals, like he'd seen a ghost. She opened one and pointed at the line, "Don't trust anyone wearing the county badge." "Was it true, Dad? Did someone in your department have a hand in this?" His jaw clenched. "Not someone," he said. "All of us." The wind howled. "They wouldn't sell the land," he went on, voice trembling. "Oil money was coming in. The county cut deals contracts I didn't understand until it was too late. I tried to warn them, but by the time I got here that night, they were gone." Laura's throat tightened. "Gone," or he looked at her then, eyes wet. "I buried them, Laura, by the creek. I couldn't let them rot out there like secrets. The company paid for silence. I took it. I've been waiting for them to come home ever since." Lightning split the horizon, and for a brief moment, the outline of the 4 horses appeared through the rain, standing still at the fence line, just watching. Laura stepped forward, tears mixing with rain. "You said the land took them home," she whispered. "You were right," her father nodded, voice breaking. "And now the land's giving them back." The storm finally broke, washing the dust and secrets from the Calloway ranch. Laura sat on the porch of the old house, her father asleep inside, his confession still echoing in her chest like a bell that couldn't be unrung. In front of her, the 4 horses grazed silently near the edge of the field, the same patch where the creek bent and disappeared into the trees. She'd sent word to the authorities, but deep down, she didn't need a team of men with shovels to tell her what she already knew. The truth wasn't buried in the ground. It had been living in her family's silence for 38 years. As the morning sun broke through the clouds, Laura walked down to the fence line. Each horse lifted its head, watching her with dark, patient eyes, as if they remembered her father's voice, his grief, his promise to keep their secret. She reached out, resting her hand against one of their necks. The animal didn't flinch. "Your boys are home," she whispered. In the distance, thunder rumbled one last time, fading into quiet. Inside, Ray Calloway stirred in his chair, breathing shallow but calm. For the first time in decades, he slept without dreams. And outside, Laura stood among the horses, the air heavy with the scent of wet earth, the past finally laid to rest, not with justice, but with truth. Some disappearances don't leave clues. They leave echoes in the wind, in the dirt, in the eyes of the living who keep remembering. The Hart brothers were never found, but maybe that was never the point. Maybe some stories don't end in graves or courtrooms. Maybe they end when the truth finally breathes again, when the weight of silence is broken, and the lost find their way home in the only form they can. As the sun set over the Texas fields, 4 horses stood still against the horizon, unmoving, timeless. And for those who believed in miracles, that night felt less like an ending, and more like a promise. This was Missing Shadows, where the lost are never truly gone, Don't forget to subscribe, because every shadow hides a story.